All right, good evening, everybody. The city manager will be joining us shortly, but has asked that I open up the meeting. So welcome, everybody. This is a meeting of the Lowell High School School Building Committee, September 15th, 2022, 6 p.m. in the mayor's reception room. Mr. Ball, if you could please call the roll.
Mr. City Manager Golden.
Present.
Mr. Mike Vaughn.
Here.
Miss Martin. Dr. Boyd.
Here.
Mr. Underwood.
Here.
Mr. Fiato. Mr. Baldwin.
Here.
Mr. Byrne.
Here.
Miss Turner. Mr. Chow. Mr. Polisi. Mr. Samaras.
Mr. Samaras is here.
Mr. Kennedy. Councilor Leahy. Mr. Elliott.
Here.
Miss Manzini.
Right here.
Mr. Mason.
Here.
Ms. Sheehy. Mr. O'Para. Ms. Harvey.
Here.
13 present.
Okay, we do have a quorum, so there are a number of business items that we should attend to. We have a number of minutes that were emailed to the body for acceptance, so I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
Sure, I'd like to make a question,
Mr. Mason?
if I could. The couple of questions came up from City Councilors Gitchier and Robinson. Those questions were not recorded in the minutes. Is that typical? That questions from the audience might not be part of the minutes?
Typically, there is a record of the questions. The detail and the substance of the questions is not necessarily recorded within them. If the public wanted to go back and watch, there is a note of the question, but the detail they would have to go back and watch in the meeting.
The question should be noted. They both asked about the solar array system on the gymnasium, and if it was built solar-ready, which it is. We recognize that with another question. And they both wanted to make the assertion that panels be installed on the high school. So I just want to add that to the notes if I could.
Okay, I think we can certainly make an amendment to the minutes with that in mind. So entertain a motion to accept the minutes as amended by Mr. Mason, second by Mr. Vaughn. All in favor? All opposed? The ayes have it. So the next business item on the agenda is the acceptance of a new member. I believe Mr. Haley is on the Zoom, but I would entertain a motion to accept Mr. Haley onto the school building committee by Mr. Samaras, second by Captain Peasley. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion accepted. The next item on the agenda is a presentation from the project team. I believe that Mr. Rex Radloff will be leading the presentation, so without any further ado, Mr. Radloff.
Well, good afternoon again, everyone. I'm happy to be back here. Since we were here last, we've been able to open up phase one of the of this project. That is the new gym. We were able to achieve our certificate of occupancy on 8/31, right in time for students to return. So we're happy to announce that. And then also, we were able to have our ribbon cutting last week. So that was an exciting event. As far as phase one goes, though, just some final activities that we're working towards. This is finishing the bleacher installation. We've been working very closely with Lowell High School, the faculty, and the teachers. to be able to get the bleachers installed throughout this month, and then into early next month as well. We have a volleyball game coming up, so we're making accommodations with the school to make sure that that takes place. So we're also eager to have that wrapped up. The bleachers are pretty impressive, about 2,000 seats, so I encourage everyone to get a nice glimpse of them, once they're complete. Some final activities, the loading dock concrete pad out back. This is some final site work that we're completing. That will be done in the next couple weeks, just in time for us to do final paving, which is slated for 10/7, so the first week of October. And then finally, fall plantings, trees out front, shrubs, etc. Those will go in once the weather cools off, which we're starting to feel right now, and we begin more of a rainy season. So be on the lookout for fall plantings, September, early October. And then finally, just completing our punch list. We've been working closely with Perkins Eastman to develop and close out punch list items. Again, these are minor deficiencies that happen naturally throughout construction activities that we want to make sure we clean up and complete before we're officially out of there. But with that said, again, we're very happy to have turned over the space and to the students and the teachers and faculty.
I think during this part of the presentation, a question and answer is in order. Feel free to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you do the final punch list, so we did the Ray Riddick Fieldhouse, the Abraham Gymnasium, and that plaque or whatever's coming in.
Yep.
And then there was the Tim Golden weight room, but we didn't really mention that. So that's on order, or that's?
So
remembered
that
to do?
specific item, I can't speak to. I'll go back and find that specific item after this. That could be on a punch list or other work to have put in afterwards. But nonetheless, for the sake of these activities, that's something that can get in quite certainly afterwards, if we're tasked with that.
Okay. And then one other quick question. Mr. Samaras would know this. On the outside of the building, did it have the Ray Riddick Fieldhouse?
Yes.
And did it also, do I remember seeing the John F. Abraham gymnasium? Nothing on the
Only-
outside was,
Only in the front of the gymnasium as you enter from inside.
okay. Was it on the outside, though?
Inside,
It
inside.
was on the inside?
Actually, we have a nice visual right here of the outside.
Right. Okay, I thought on the old building, I thought I saw the Abraham name on the outside. but-
It was a plaque which we saved that was just inside the multiple doors that you'd walk in from the lobby.
Maybe that's what it was. Okay, all right, so that was it. I just want to make sure that the Golden Weight Room sign gets up too. Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Radloff, if I could just interject with a housekeeping matter for a moment. In this room, it's very important that everybody remember the microphones in front of them. We can all hear each other very well in here, but LTC just grabbed me to let me know that so that the folks can hear us at home, please make sure to speak into the microphone and that the green light is on. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, with that, I would like to move into Phase 2 activities. Now, Phase 2 activities consist right now of taking down of the existing field house and also the south side of the 1980s building. That work actually started about 3 months ago with a fair amount of enabling. These topics we hit on quite a bit in the past meetings. Since that enabling is complete and we've been able to create a physical separation from the building, we can go ahead and take the building down itself. So all of that hard work that we put in for the last couple of weeks allows us to take these buildings down quickly. So as far as remaining activities, or I should say the upcoming activities between September, October, and November, for September, we continue what we call bulk demolition. That's the actual taking down of the building. And then also debris loadout. We're loading out 50, 60 trucks a day, actually at its height. And then we're moving into takedown of the field house. The field house right now is still standing. Everyone will see that field house starting to come down early next week, maybe even as soon as Monday of next week. And it'll come down in the course of a couple days before we sort and then load and then truck out all the materials. Once the buildings are leveled and then trucked out, we'll be able to then mobilize our site work contractor. That's Jay DiRenzo, a different site work contractor than from Phase 1. And they'll come in and perform the same exact activities that we did for Phase 1. That is, they'll establish their building pad. They'll do items like we have a pool that needs to be filled in. Naturally, we'll have an indention an indent in the ground that will need to be filled in. So they'll do that. Afterwards, they'll continue on with pre-excavation. It's a method of being able to run through the site and dig up any obstructions that's within the subsurface that allows for our ground improvements to be installed without any hindrance. And then afterwards, we'll begin our ground improvements. That's the rammed aggregate piers. Everyone will see a couple rigs on site being able to go around and perform that work. And then that will bring us through October. For November, we're looking forward to mobilizing our concrete contractor. That will be Prime Concrete, actually another separate subcontractor for Phase 1. They're looking to mobilize early November, and they'll be able to work alongside the site work contractor who's going to be excavating foundations, and then they'll be installing their foundations. Then lastly, in November, we have a fairly large infiltration system that goes right in the middle of Phase 1, or Phase 2 rather, and that will be installed in November as well. So that's really our look ahead for the next couple months. It is getting the building out of here and then beginning our site work activities so we could look forward to steel beginning towards the middle, or actually more likely the later within December and then throughout the winter. Yes, please.
So the demolition that you're doing in November, the site work, is there any problems that you foresee with the water or sewer lines that are in Phase 2 that are currently there now that might be old lines, and has any investigation been done?
Yeah, a fair amount. We're very familiar with the underground systems that are in place. Those that can be removed, we've been able to cut and cap and reroute. Cut and cap for this phase, and also reroute back in Phase 1 even. I can't pretend to know that we won't hit anything or come across anything rather. And if we do, we know certainly what to do if that were to happen. For example, Phase 1, we did come across I want to say it was a drainage line that we had to go in and reroute accordingly. So we're constantly looking for that, but by no means are we going to go in too heavy and damage anything that is of vital infrastructure for the city. But we're of the opinion that all of that has been handled throughout our efforts this past summer leading up to the demolition activities right now. Yep. Of course.
You mentioned there's 50 or 60 trucks leaving the site every day. I just want to ask a question about recycling. Are you separating the metals from the concrete and wood and so forth?
Yeah, we sure are. So we have a couple recycling streams. If it's steel or C&D or brick, we'll be able to separate those, and then we report back through Perkins Eastman on the quantities that we've been able to utilize, or at least recycle, and then that actually adds to our lead points on the project, and allows us to be to achieve our LEED certification on the project itself. So, and that's not just with demolition, but that's also with all waste that we produce on this job.
And which LEED certification are you going for?
Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's gold or platinum.
Silver is...
Oh, silver or gold.
Silver is what we've targeted. We expect to be beyond silver with this building, but silver is what we're planned on, which will get us our reimbursement from MSBA.
Thank you.
So with that said, I'll share a couple photos of the demolition activities that I'm sure everyone's already well aware of. The first one is taken actually from the AAT garage. I took it myself after I parked, of the demolition activities. The field house on the right-hand side looking to be taken down early next week. And then the south side of the 1980s building. Actually, since I've taken this photo, this last bay has been taken down and brought to the ground. So we're looking forward to loading this section out. Next photo is the back end of the 1980s building. And then the last photo as well, back end of the 1980s building, however, cleared out. What remains is the slab on grade right here and the foundations, which we'll begin to start removing in the next weeks. So with that said, I'll also turn it over, or I'm also going to bring up our high school campus logistics plan. This is a map that I shared last week, but I want to bring it back up again since our traffic management plan is fully functioning right now. So as what everyone can see, we have Jersey barriers along both Arcan and Father Morissette, and we've been able to move the crosswalk further east up Father Morissette, diverting pedestrian traffic across and away our main gate. Our gates continue to be closed during that drop-off and pickup timeframe. And then lastly, the pathway along the canal side has been laid, except for overhead protection that we're getting in the next couple of weeks as well. And then Stair J, which we're completing this week, will also provide egress into the building once opened up on Monday. Okay. Next section, and last section for myself, at least for now, our MBE and WBE and workforce progress report. So again, our contracts awarded, $21,617,000 for MBE and WBE contracts. This number will stay the same throughout the life of the job. As far as total construction minority workforce, this has gone up quite a bit in the last month, 313 workers, 42,000 hours at 25%. Our goal is 15.3%, so we're pretty proud of this number, and we'd like to keep it here. As far as the total construction female workforce, this has also gone up slightly, or at least 0.3% in the last month, and then 0.3% the month prior, to 3.6%. Our goal here is 6.9%, so we'll continue to work towards that goal for the life of the job. And then lastly, our total construction of Lowell residents at 10.7%. That's gone up since last month as well. 73 workers, 18,000 hours. Okay, and with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Perkins Eastman for a designer update.
We really don't have an update this month. As you have seen from Rex's presentation, there's a lot of building coming down. We continue to work with the construction team on a daily basis with regard to answering questions and being out in the field and observing the work that is being done. We will continue to do that, and as items come up to bring to the committee's attention, we will do that monthly in the future.
Good evening, Jim Dowd with Skanska, the Onus project manager. A budget update. As everyone is aware, the overall budget is $381.9 million. As I hit upon on all the meetings, any change orders come out of the $21.2 million construction contingency. To date, we have had $249,000 in change orders approved. Pending under review by the project team is $504,000 in changes. There's also an additional owner contingency for FF&E and some consultant costs of $2 million, of which we have spent zero to date on that contingency. And the construction manager's contingency down in the bottom right-hand corner has utilized $141,000 with $147,000 in changes pending. If we can go to the next slide, Rex. This is a condensed version of the overall project update, which is submitted monthly to Mr. Baldwin and included in the monthly report with the invoices for the month of August. The total amount of invoices is $6.3 million, which will be processed to the city in the next couple of days for payment. And the overall spent to date on the project is $96 million. And we will move on to the next segment, which is next steps. Next steps, as Rex had said, is You'll see significant changes with the old field house coming down, foundations going in, and so there's going to be more going down before you see more going up, and we'll open it up to questions.
Sorry, I have a quick question regarding the logistics. It says there are temporary ADA ramps. Those are pretty far from the current drop-off and pickup area, and they're loading right off the curb, which could pose an issue for mobility aid users. And a second part of that, there are accessible parking spots outside of the old cafeteria that are consistently blocked, I would say. Are there plans to relocate or ensure that those aren't blocked off for people needing them?
So for both those areas, if you don't mind, I would like to walk those spaces tomorrow, maybe with yourself, Ricky, or anyone else, and identify exactly identify if there is anything of concern there and then address it. I don't have that on my radar, but now it is.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Samaras?
Thank you. There's a lot of interest in the contingency money, okay? You went over the construction contingency amount is 21 million, but you have the Onus contingency fund, construction manager contingency. Our constituents are looking at this, and people, sometimes don't have an understanding of what the contingency money is. Is it going to be enough? There's been a lot of discussions in the last meeting, about that, but you did a fine job explaining that. But what does the owner contingency mean? What does the construction manager contingency mean? If you could break it down a little further.
The construction contingency is for unforeseen changes that are in addition to what was in the contract. For example, if we encounter a sewer main underneath the building, which was unforeseen from years past, that would be an unforeseen change that would go to the construction contingency, which is the $21.2 million. If there are also any other unforeseen conditions, especially in a renovation, if we open up a wall and it's structural issues with it, that would be an unforeseen condition that would not be the responsibility of the contractor, that would go to construction contingency. The owner contingency is what we like to call a soft cost contingency. That is for if there are any additional consultant costs, if we run into issues that are not covered. It's also for if we overrun, we have third-party hygienists for any of the abatements being done, if those costs overrun, because those are hourly. And FF&E, which is the furnitures, fixtures, and equipment. If there are any other items that we would like to add to that. For example, this morning I know we discussed that the operations of the school, the wood floor, having a temporary protection covering for certain events like ROTC, people marching with heels that would impact it. That would come, we discussed this morning, that would come out of the owner contingency. And the third contingency is the construction manager's contingency. That is contained within Suffolk's contract of $305 million for items that are encountered that a lot of them are buys that didn't take, that if there are items that weren't bought out, that should have been bought out, and other items that may have been reasonably foreseeable or logistics or means and methods of how they're approaching it, where they run into additional costs, they can utilize that fund within their contract.
How is that determined? What is the group? Does that go through the city manager, or does that go through your own group?
It goes through the owner's project manager, the architect, and then it goes to the city manager's office.
Oh, thank you, that's good. I mean, you provided a lot of information the last time, but the thing is, people are looking at, what does contingency really mean? There are a lot of people saying, well, if you don't have to use it, can we use it against, the loan order? But as you explained, you're right now well within budget of your funding, but now you're going to be going into renovation versus new buildings, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Any questions, any other questions, concerns, thoughts? Mr. Byrne,
So,
Commissioner.
on the owner's project management, the owner's contingency. So if there was existing situations in the high school right now, but because of the construction demolition that has taken place, would we be allowed to use any owner's contingency money to make improvements that would make the building more safe, or the air quality in there would be better, or the heating or AC in there would be better? I'm just throwing that out.
That would actually come under construction contingency, and one example of that is there were staircases last spring that were found to be rotting, and those were replaced this past summer, and that was funded from the construction contingency.
Hi, you mentioned that you had 2 new subcontractors for on this phase that you didn't have the first phase. Were the prices the same for this phase, or what you anticipated if you hadn't switched subcontractors?
Even more competitively, the trades, actually one of the advantages of having a multi-phase project, it allows us to bid out certain portions certain portions based on the phase. So phase 1 was bid out to a handful of trades, and those trades also bid out phase 2, 3, and 4 collectively. The trades that I've mentioned that won or were awarded for phase 1 also bid on phase 2, 3, and 4, but they weren't competitive enough. So their numbers were just not low enough, or they didn't have the best value of a package, rather. Yep.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns, comments? Mr. Underwood?
Hi, everybody. So, as you know, I'm on the job pretty much every day, every night, and I respect all the work that went on, hard work. A lot went on the last couple of weeks getting ready for school. We took on a very aggressive plan in a very short period of time. It was no secret I had a lot of concerns running up to the last couple of days, getting ready for school, and I just think it's important that I think everybody learned a lot from this on the concerns of the staff, of the folks, of the parents, not all related to just construction. It's a lot of things. And I think when we put such an aggressive plan together and we start to rush to those last couple of days, we start to lose attention to detail. And we have a beautiful building, no doubt, and a lot of hard work to it. But I think when we put such an aggressive plan together with a lot of reluctance to ask for more time or whatever, it hurts the project. It hurts the transparency to the public, to what and we opened, and I agree, and a lot of work to it. But I think we could have used a little more time for detail of attention, or have slacked off a little bit. But we learned a lot on this. And I know the construction team understands now the importance of how the community looks at these. We had issues with some water coming into the building. We had some issues with the elevators being operational for school. So, we're not going to be dead. It was a lot of hard work, and a lot of people, really putting in a lot of hours to get to that final day. But again, we've got a long stretch of time now before we have to worry about meeting a deadline, because there'll be a lot of construction. But we do have phases 3, 4, and 5 where we'll start getting into construction back in within the building. For a long time now, we're separated. The building's cool. So again, I think we've learned a lot, but a couple of years from now, we have to remember what happened now. That there's a lot of expectations on different things, not just the deadline. So, thank you.
Counselor Leahy.
Thank you. So I was going to go off of what Mr. Underwood said. So how do we feel, I guess, Dr. Boyd and, well, Ricky, you would know the best too. Everything seems to be safe, in order, and good for the students, because, I mean, I know from my projects, you know, students, they'll look up and they'll walk under anything and they'll be in your way and this and that. So it seems like you have everything fenced off well. Are there any other concerns with any other parts of the building that we should be tightening up on, or so?
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. I think I've been clear with this committee and in every forum that while in a construction meeting it's of primary importance, construction, in my world, primary importance is our children and our student safety. I've been in contact with Jim Dowd nearly daily. Rick's been on site daily to make sure that that's continued to be emphasized. And I can tell you, Counselor, full support from the city manager. While it's construction under his purview, full support to emphasize student safety and teaching and learning as the primary importance during the course of the school year. So what we've emphasized is that if at any point we feel that the primary importance is becoming secondary, we will shut down construction on the spot to make sure that the safety of our children maintains top priority for everyone throughout our community every single day. So we emphasize that continuously, and as I think Mr. Underwood shared, there's been daily, hourly, at certain benchmarks that we've had Mr. Underwood on site, and I just want to recognize Jim Dowd's been very transparent with us throughout the process, making sure as our OPM that every adjustment is made to make sure we can emphasize student safety. And you see some of that come up in the change orders, the logistical adjustments, the mapping that Suffolk has suggested that they're doing. Some of that is in response. I think here I have confidence today that it's been maintained as our top priority, but I would emphasize for the committee, and I would hope that we have the full support of the building committee, if there ever comes a question that construction's becoming paramount to student safety, that we actually opt to shut down construction. We don't opt to shut down school operations. So we'll continue to give you updates, and I appreciate that question, and I would ask, let's continue to have that conversation be on the table every meeting. But as of right now, I recognize and value our OPM who's been on site. He and I just met today, actually, with a question that he raised for me to check down with me as superintendent. So yes, right now, top priority, we're confident, and we'll continue to monitor that each and every day.
I mean, it sounds like everything's good, but we'll just make sure we stay on top of it, because, you know, you let one thing slide, and then the next thing you know, with all those kids there and parents at pickup, I mean, it's crazy in the morning and for 15 minutes at the end of the school day. It's nuts. So as long as we're safe and the parking issues that you brought up, you know, we'll stay on top of that. Thank you.
Ms. Harvey?
To echo Superintendent Boyd, I'm a first-year teacher. I have not encountered any construction in my journeys. It's been quiet, noise-wise. The students are very excited about their new gym. Everybody in this room got a round of applause over the AC that's working in there. They are very, very excited and looking forward to all the next steps.
I would just add that student learning is the absolute priority. We got a call the other day that there was noise in one corner of the 1980s building. We went right up there, and it was far too loud for learning. We gave a call to Suffolk. We said, shut it down. Suffolk shut the jackhammering down, and that will be continue to be the mode of operation that we will go through. If it impacts learning, we're going to shut it down.
Counselor?
Quick question. I don't know who this goes to, but with the opening of the new gym too, I was thinking, are we staffed correctly for security, managing the doors, things like that? We don't want kids in there that shouldn't be in there, but we want the kids that need to get in there to be able to get in. So we should probably be double checking, do we have enough security for that building and for the other building? So just a thought. I don't need an answer, but just, you know, we should be thinking of that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Counselor. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Commissioner?
Yeah, just on your follow-up question. So the learning is absolutely important. I appreciate your comments on that. One question I have is, outside the time frame of when we're doing the project work, has there been thoughts, and I know you guys have been in this business a long time, Rex, so about moving, your timelines is trying to do a lot of the project demolition after hours. And I know there's probably some type of ordinances in place, and we have the noise ordinances, but I think some things, when we have the demolition over there, there's some things maybe that we might be able to, waive, or we might be able to narrow the window down if we send out notices to some of the residents around here that you can work on certain time frames to get the demolition done as quick as possible, which would not impact any student learning.
No, I appreciate that. What we've implemented on the project is demo activities that are directly touching the occupied space, that is the 1980s building, are conducted off hours, and we're able to do so within the schedule that we have. Other activities that we're going to do off hours that we foresee provide an elevated hazard will be the bridge removal, which is slated for early October, but also the field house. So the field house is looking to be taken down early next week, but that will start to be taken down off hours, especially the larger portions. But we're constantly looking at the activity that we're doing. If it has an elevated hazard around pedestrians or an occupied building, we will do so when the building clears or when the streets are relatively unoccupied. So that's been the strategy so far.
Once again, to follow up on what the commission was saying, if there's anything that we need to adjust, let's make it happen, especially for the purpose of the school day. Looking at any other final comments, questions, or concerns? Once again, final comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing none? Motion to adjourn. So moved. Seconded by Mr. Samaras. Mr. Baldwin. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it, and we'll see you next month.